Welcome back to the Gyrl podcast. I'm Kyra. All right, I am excited to welcome Kimisha into the show. Welcome to the Gyrl podcast.
Hi, Kara. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, fantastic. Well, let's get started by having you tell the audience listening or watching who you are and what you do.
Definitely. So, my name is Kimisha King. I'm from the beautiful island of Barbados. I am a visionary strategist and a purpose coach. I have an organization called Queen's Mindset where we empower women and we help women to birth their visions and walk in their purpose.
Awesome, I love that. Well, let's talk about your journey and how you became a visionary strategist.
Definitely. I like that question, because I never recognized that that's what it was, you can be doing something for so long and you didn't realize, hey, there's a term for that. So I I came from a very dysfunctional family, and having seen my family every single day or every other day, you'll see them having an argument, you will see something happening within the household. We weren't completely poor to say, but we're very close to the poverty line. And having seen my mom having to struggle to make ends meet for us to be able to go to school, for us to be able to be fed, and all those things, I kept seeing it happening all around me. I remember very well, it's so clear. I remember sitting in front of that television because we had a television where the knob was off. So we had to get the fork, the invented fork, and just use that to turn the knob so that we can watch television. And we only had one channel. And I was sitting right in front of that television and I would just escaping those movies that I would see on TV, and I see those persons with their fancy homes, wearing fancy clothes, having their cars, everything, families coming together, doing great stuff with one another. And I just started to visualize a better life for me. I started to visualize. At no point did I thought to myself, Kimisha, this is just acting. I didn't see it as just acting. I saw it as reality. So, and I saw that. I said, if that can happen for them, it can absolutely happen for me. So I started making plans. I started doing my vision board. I started writing affirmations, but nobody told me it was a vision board. Nobody told me it was an affirmation. I just didn't know. I was writing stuff on my bedroom door, writing stuff in my room, speaking things to among my friends. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing these things because I understood that when I did it, it encouraged me to pursue greater. You only had one person in my family who had gone to university. And I said to God, I have to be the next person. Like I have to go, so I pursued the college degree and then I pursued university degree. And I was just pursuing and pursuing and pursuing. And every way along the line, I was making those affirmations, putting up those pictures, speaking the things that I want to see, doing the things that I want. And only when I got to this level where I started Queen's Mindset and I was going through training to help create the message that I really want to put out there. And when the trainer said to me, do you understand that you've been doing this all your life? Because when she started asking me stuff and I said, well, I'll do this, I'll do that, I didn't realize that those were steps. Like I just was doing it naturally because I wanted a better life. And I did not want to be stuck, like how I saw my family being stuck in that place. So that's how Visionary Strategist came about. It's from such an early age as 4, just birthing that all the way up to where I am today.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, let's talk about, so you became a visionary strategist at the age of 4.
Yes.
And you've had a vision for a really long time. And a lot of other people have, a vision of what they want their life to be. But there often are roadblocks or things that get at distractions. What are some of the common things that you see in the work that you do that tends to block people's visions?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one for me?
Oh yeah. So, obviously you've been visionary and a visionary strategist since the age of 4, right? And a lot of people in the world today, a lot of people have visions, right? A lot of people are putting out, vision boards, and people do it every year and they're like, oh, this is going to be the year. But in the work that you do, what are you finding as some of the roadblocks or distractions for some people? What things tend to block people from actually getting to that vision?
Oh, yes, definitely. There's been a lot of robots that I've been able to spot where persons, because one, it has a lot to do with the confidence level, right? Your belief system. And where is that? Do you really believe the thing that you're pursuing? And I have found that a lot of persons lack that belief. So they may say that, let's say, for example, someone wants to be a same like purpose coach, or you want to be a business owner, and you started a business, but you start to get challenges happening, and people start to, they kind of draw back themselves and start to tell themselves, maybe this is not for me because it's so hard. But it's supposed to
Mhm.
be hard because you're building resistance, through that process. So I've seen that lack of faith, that lack of belief, that lack of confidence, believing that they can actually do it. And then there's also, the lack of effort, because many times you see persons say, okay, I have this vision, God has given me this vision, this is something I'm going to pursue. But then we sit back and we expect the vision to take off on its own. Like, you have to know, come in and put in the footwork. You have to give God something to work with. And many times we are just doing that, and then nobody's writing down the vision anymore. They're just talking about it, and they just talk about it in forums that make themselves sound good, but there's no evidence of being it written down. You see, there is a scripture that says that, write the vision, make it plain, so that he who comes after you can read it and run with it. But if we're not writing anything down, nobody can partner with us on that vision, because nobody understands it. Because the thing is, the vision has been given to us because it's for us to carry out the assignment, but we now have to be able to explain the vision. And I find that the roadblock is that people don't understand the vision, so they can't explain it. And that's why
Mhm.
there's a lack of faith and the lack of belief and the lack of confidence and everything else that follows after that, because they have not themselves really partnered with that vision. And that's where the
Mhm.
challenge is.
Yes. Okay. I so many good things in what you said here, but I agree with you. I think a lot of times people say, I have this vision of what, this business. And yes, I've been called to do this. This is my purpose. But that's where it is, right? They're just talking about it to other people, like you said, to make it sound like, oh wow, they've really got it together. Like they know what they're doing. But then there's no place where it exists on paper. And I'm really big on like creating the strategy, putting it on paper because it holds me accountable. And so it's like, and to your point, I love that you said, if there is no like vision on paper, there's nothing for, the next person to come behind. Like there's no way you can execute something. There's no way you can partner with other people. You can never grow your team because you're the only person that has the vision like up in your head, and nobody else can do anything.
Right.
But the other thing that grabs me is effort.
Yes.
And I think that is so real. And I applaud you for saying that because I think a lot of times people, especially, entrepreneurs are like, well, I've got this really great idea and it's going to come to life. Like they just put it out there. And it's like, oh yeah, you can manifest it, but you've got to do something to help bring it, bring it to pass. Like, you can't just be like, okay, here you go. It's out there, y'all. And it's that effort. It's that like you have to be putting in the work too in order for it to become for the dream to be realized.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
And you can't teach. I don't think you can teach effort. I mean, right? Like you have it's inside.
That's right.
Yes. So I love that. Now, aside from the fact that no, the effort I don't think can be taught, but how do you help people as far as because I do understand the confidence piece of someone saying like, I mean, I have this thing, I want to do this thing, but I don't have the confidence to bring it forth. How do you help people? Like, what would you say is if someone's listening or watching now, and they're like, Kimisha, yep, I hear you, girl. Like, yes, you're speaking to me about my confidence just isn't there yet. What are some things that someone could do to maybe just feel more confident in bringing their vision to life?
My first step in helping persons is to help bring clarity for them, because sometimes our minds can we can have so many ideas, so many different things that we want to do. We're going left, we're going right, we're all over the place, and before we know it, we think we're doing something, we're actually not doing anything at all. So the
Mhm.
first step is to really bring clarity. So have that chat, have that conversation with them to identify what's the purpose. What is it that you have been called to? Have you been able to identify it, and have you identified it correctly? Because you don't want it to be something that you've seen someone else done before that you kind of like because it looks glamorous or it looks fulfilling to you. But when you go to do it, you realize, hey, I'm being butt with resistance because really that thing might not have been called for you. So I help them to find clarity. Once we find clarity and we understand this is it, we've identified it, then we start working on the steps. So you start to write that vision out. And in writing that vision out, I then help persons now to, after we've written it down, we've made it plain, we've made it clear because we understand it, we start to put pictures towards that. And those pictures, I call it a environment. You're creating that vision environment. And what you're doing now is that you're having those photographs, throughout your home. You want to have them in your bedroom, in your living room, in your dining room, in your kitchen, in your laundry room, every area of the house, because you're building up that vision. You want that every time you go into either part of your home, you're reminded of the vision. And sometimes, you can see something, may not pay attention to it, but when you go back, you're like, oh my goodness, I remember this because somehow it has gone into your subconscious, right? So that's what we help them to do. And then once you have that vision, because what's going to have their five senses, that our five senses have to be attached to the power of visualization. You want the feel, touch, hear, see, all that. And then I help them now to, let's say, for example, it's the business that they want to build. You want to have that storefront. Let's go and go through some realtors and let's go visit some places. Let's go identify the spot. You don't have to have the money. You don't have to know how it's going to work. You're visualizing, you're putting that thing into perspective now. You go, you seek out, okay, what's the funding, what's needed, get all the necessary things that you need to know. And then let's work that plan backwards. Let's see how we can get you into that storefront. Let's see how we can get you with the products that you need. Let's see how we can help you to be able to provide the services that you need to provide. So we're doing that because I call it some level of research, and then you do that. You sit in that vision, you're tasting, you're feeling it, because you go to that location, you're touching the area, you go there, you start to visualize it. It becomes more of a reality for you. So now
Mhm.
you know what are the steps that you have to put in. So it's a lot of work, but I first start with that. And then of course, we have to build them with the desire and the passion. Because with your vision, you have to want it. You have to want it more than
Mhm.
anything, and you have to want it, because if you don't desire it enough, then doubt is going to set in, and that's going to steal your level of
Yes.
belief. So I help them to get to that place where they become passionate. But you can only become passionate for something that that has been called for you, that that this is it, and you
Mhm.
have clarity. Because if you're unsure, the passion is not going to be there because you're not clear. So clarity is our first step, the major key, and then we walk them through the other steps so that they can get to that place.
Yes. Okay. Again, love that. Love that because I think like what you're saying is that you have to see the end.
Yes.
You have to see the end. And I love this example of the storefront because if you are someone, because I immediately, when you start to talk about that, and I thought, yes, because immediately what always happens is someone says, oh, well, I'd like to have a storefront, but then they say, well, I can't afford it. I
Yes.
can't possibly afford that. Why would I go looking at storefronts if I can't afford it? And I think through this exercise, I mean, you're lining up the purpose, your belief, all those things come into play into manifesting and bringing it to life. And then I like how then once you see the end, then you're working backwards. And I think that's so key in any type of strategy work that you're going to do. You got to be able to see the end first and then back, take the steps back to to get there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so let's talk about your business, Queen's Mindset. So first of all, tell me, where did that name come from?
I love that question again. Okay, so I actually was attending a conference. It was a business conference. And I remember sitting at the front, and the speaker, they said about walking in your purpose, just moving. Like sometimes we delay, we procrastinate so much because we're thinking about all the other stuff. and they talked about just moving. So when we went on break, I honestly, it came from God. That's it. It came from God because as soon as I got outside, I took my phone out, I went back to my hotel room, and the name just came out my mouth. And I started a page on Instagram immediately. And I said, hey, this is what I'm going to do because I always felt called to empower women. I just didn't know how to start. And I was so concerned about how should I start? How will people view me? But that time in that conference, that person that spoke, they just really got me energized and ready to go. So I went on Instagram, started the page, started a video right away, sent it out, and then Queen's Mindset started. So Queen's Mindset really just started as a page for empowerment where you will come on, you see quotes, you see video of encouragement and so on, until God really started to talk to me and said, this is so much bigger than what you are doing. I mean, to expand this vision. There's so much because I think at the beginning, what I was doing was just kind of like towing the waters, like
Mhm.
not quite sure would it really
Yeah.
work and everything. But as the more God began to, to download and show me, okay, this is where I'm really taking you, then I started to build and expand the Queen's Mindset brand. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I would have never thought that this was it. When I took that phone, I started that Instagram page, back in 2017. I was not expecting that at all, but it came to fruition.
I love that. That's a very inspiring story. And I am right there with you on, hearing from, like when I started Glow Up Girl, it was literally me sitting at my kitchen table and I heard God speaking to me and saying like it was like glow up. And I was like, what? Oh, and I was looking around as if I did know, like, but I was like, what? And so, and it just all the pieces fell into place just based on other things that were happening in my life, and it just made sense. So, I really love hearing stories like that because that's one thing I want people to definitely understand who might be if you're listening or watching, like listen, like when you're hearing from that internal voice, intuition, whatever your belief is in the world. For us, it's God. Whatever you're hearing, whatever you hear, just pay attention because you will get those, you will hear it. You will hear the next steps. You will see them. Like if you just open your eyes to, as Kimisha mentioned earlier, and having like imagery and things on your vision board, but you'll start to see other things. Like sometimes I can just be watching TV and I'll feel like God gives me, it's like, oh, really? Okay. And sometimes it's so simple. I'm like, why did I think? And I'm just always so thankful that, for the ideas that flow through me that I'm allowed to put out there. So I think that's pretty cool. And I love that story. All right, let's talk about how you work with people. So can you share sort of the process of getting started and any programs if anyone's listening or watching and they're thinking, I want to work with Kimisha.
Definitely. So we have several programs. We have one of our programs we have is called boot camp, and that's boot camp for 7 days of intimacy. It's tied to one of our books, and with this book really talks about self love. It's self love about you loving yourself again, you understanding and rediscovering who you are, who you've been called to be. And it takes you through different steps. And one of the main thing about that is that you're taking yourself on dates. So you take yourself on 7 days, you're being very intimate with you. And I'm not talking about that regular date where we would say, oh, I got my nails done, I got my hair done, or I go and I can purchase food and sit. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that is so intentional. And then you're journaling everything through the process. So it's a very intense process where you're going through all these different layers. And we have seen so many persons who have really received that healing, because they realize, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that I had all of these insecurities. I didn't realize that this was something that I needed to fix. And it helps to give them some form of clarity. And then we have that where you can do coaching with us. If you are ready to start a business or you just want to be able to walk in your purpose, we're able to guide you through that process. There are different programs. Some of them are 7 weeks, 12 weeks, and you can reach out to us. And once you reach out to us, we have that consultation first because we want to understand, where you're at, what you're looking for. And after that consultation, then we begin to design what is best for you. So there's some programs that are set where everyone will be a part of, but then there's some coaching programs that are designed specifically for the individual and where they are at so that they can get that necessary help that they need. And then there's another program we have called Live Your True program. That's one that we do around schools across Barbados. And with that, what we're doing, we're going into the secondary schools and we're giving like workshops on we're dealing with peer pressure. We're teaching them about self-esteem, how to build their self-esteem, how to build their confidence, teaching them how to use their power to empower. It's a process throughout the board. And it's linked to another one of our books as well that teaches them that. So you get that interaction with the students, help to build them their confidence level and so on. And then we've expanded it to not only organizations because it started back in 2021 and we were just having organizations, come in and partnering with us and they would make a donation. But now we have extended it to the public so individuals can now donate. And donation is simple. You just donate a book and a book is just $17.50 US. And you could donate 1, 2 books, how many books you are led to, because with those books, persons are being able to use that and they're using the books a part of the program to bring that part for them. And that has just been so fulfilling. Kyra, I remember one time when I got that voice note from this young lady and she was in complete tears about how the book has, has really given her a lot of introspection and how she could relate to it, how it's been able to help her. She said she felt as though it was telling her life story. She's only like 16 years old. I mean, this girl was really crying and telling me how she felt about the book. And many other students that would meet me along the way and say, I'm so glad you came to our school. I'm so glad that I got your book. So it tells me that an impact is being made. And that is where we're doing. We're trying to make the impact in every area that is possible for us. So those programs are the ones that we have this far. Outside of that, we have like conferences, workshops. From time to time, we'll have those. We usually have a conference called Write the Vision. Usually it happens at the end of the year, but this year we're not going to be having it in December. We're going to have it either in January or February because there's some other things that we're trying to, fix and put in place that has caused it not to happen in December. Then we have our magazine for the women who talk about resilience. That's another first part for them to be able to talk about themselves and what they've been doing. And then we have our major conference that happens every year called Battered Bruised Not Broken. And that's tied from our television series on YouTube, where we interview women from all across the world and they tell their stories of various adversities they've been through and how they've been able to overcome. It's an empowering opportunity for women to be empowered, for persons to feel healing, and for us to come together as a sisterhood. It's also the blog too as well, where persons can blog there, they share their stories and interact with people from across the world as well. And it's just been an amazing experience with all of these different programs for different persons because we're really targeting women and youth. And it's really been fulfilling to see how persons have been able to receive and been able to apply and know their lives have been really, really transformed. And I'll share this last one. One of the programs that we had was developing a business. And I remember when I started that, I did a pilot and I had my friends and other persons that would be a part of it. And from that, one of my friends, she was able to actually start her business. So she had this thing, she was sitting on it for years. God had told her to do it. And she didn't know how, but when she joined that program and it ran for 7 weeks, at the end of the program, she got a business up and running. Can I tell you that she's doing so much amazing things right now? And her program is actually called Not Prayer Cafe. It's a prayer cafe that she wanted to start. And now she's the first person in Barbados to have a national prayer breakfast. And it's not just an ordinary national prayer breakfast, but I'm talking about she's having it at the Prime Minister's home. And this is phenomenal because now she's been able to put all the steps that we've been teaching in that program and she's been able now to have herself going. She has a whole ministry going all across Barbados, even worldwide, and it's just been doing phenomenal. So to hear those types of things coming out of our programs is just, oh my goodness, you're in the right calling, right?
Yes.
So I definitely wanted to share that one.
Love that. That's awesome. Well, congratulations to her and to you and your team for your success and just for all the great programs that you're offering. I think it's amazing, especially too when you're able to touch the youth,
Yeah.
because they are truly the future. So if you can grab them when they're young, teach them, love on them, and give them the tools and resources, I mean, I feel like nothing can stop them.
Yeah.
All right. So I'd also like to talk about a book that you wrote, Journey to 30, The Naked Truth. I am you. Tell us about what inspired the book and what are some of the key themes in that book?
So I let you ask that. Oh my God, you just have some really great questions today. When that book came to me, it was like I was in the bathroom. I was actually taking a shower, and I just heard God say, "You're gonna write a book, and you're gonna write it in three. You're gonna write it in 3 months." And I'm like, "I'm gonna do what?" And I'm like, there's no possible way. Like, I've never written a book because that was my first book. But I remember only when I was reminded that coming up, I always used to tell my friends, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to publish a book. I didn't even remember it until people started telling me when the book came
Mm,
out. And I was like, you see that? Words of affirmation, right? The power of the tongue.
mhm.
And, the
Yes.
book came. I remember coming out of the washroom and I told my sister about it. She said, yeah, you can do it. I was expecting her to talk me out of it. I said, Kimisha, that's crazy. You've never written a book. How are you going to write it in 3 months? How are you going to do that? That's not going to work. But she was encouraging me. So I just sat and I started to write the book. And the book is really about my journey up until the age of 30. It's about all the things that I would have encountered as a teenager, as a young adolescence and so on, up into that, in the 20s and so on. And it talks a lot about, it has a lot to do with faith. It talks about the peer pressure that I would have encountered as a teenager, which is why it
Mhm,
works so well with the students. And then I
mhm,
talk about, the things that I've been through with my family being dysfunctional, how I've had to watch my family almost every day in a battle. And then seeing my mom trying to make ends meet and, seeing her from in that relationship with my dad, where she stayed with him for 13 years, even though he would have cheated on her repeatedly. I have another sister that's outside of that. And my last two sisters are only 3 weeks apart because of that, what my father had done. And I remember growing up, I was so angry with my mom because I felt like she was always attacking my dad, but I was so young to understand that my dad was actually cheating on my mom. I didn't know what that meant. I'm so young, daddy's girl. I didn't understand. But as I grew older, I began to understand, why it is that that happened. I understood why my father reacted or treated my mom that way because himself, he was looking for love. He came up as an orphan. His father actually killed his mother. So my grandmother died before I even got to meet her. And at 7 years old, he was into a home. And he had to learn how to be independent, grow up on that place where
mhm,
he had to fend for himself. He didn't have that love. He didn't have a lot of things. And that caused his actions to, spiral out of control. Then I saw my mom not understanding why she would react the way that she did. But I learned then that even before she was formed properly in her mother's womb, my grandmother attempted to abort her because she didn't want to bring her into the world anymore
mhm,
because her father, having found out that she was on her way, he fled the island. He didn't want anything to do with the relationship with my grandmother anymore. So my grandmother attempted that. So when I started to learn all of those things, I started to
mhm,
really understand where the dysfunction was coming from, why these things
mhm,
were happening. And of course, I only understood that in my late 20s, where, of course,
mhm,
I'm older now, can understand, I've studied now, so I know certain things, psychology and so on. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then that's when God told me to write the book, I said, well, you're going to have to tell me what to say. Because I don't know what to say. And because it talks about your story, talk about your life story. So I was really afraid to do that because of all the things I encountered. Nobody knew. I always
Right.
planted a face as though, like, she's pretty and perfect, well put together. There's nothing happening with her.
Mhm,
And God was calling me to be truthful, to be honest, to expose those things
mhm,
because it's not just about me, it's about helping others. And I did that. And when it was finished, I saw everybody else was coming and saying, oh my God, that's my story. I encountered this, I encountered that. And I blew my mind because I thought that I needed to keep this thing, a secret
right.
because it would have tarnished the type of reputation that I wanted to build. But what it did was embraced as so much more for people to be able
Mhm,
to embrace their stories as well. And it was not easy at first because there was a lot of backlash from family. Of course, people didn't want me to speak on certain things, but it was my truth. And God was saying to speak it. And I have
right.
seen the evidence of it now. I've been able to help persons. So that's how Journey to 30 it really came about. And that's how it's been doing now, impacting persons just worldwide and helping people to really, embrace their truth and
Mhm.
tell their truth.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for your transparency here. Because I think that's needed. Like you said, you being honest and transparent about your past and what you encountered helps another person to be able to just even say, acknowledge. But one thing I heard and no matter the level of dysfunction that may have existed, I heard a lot of room where grace was given.
Yes.
And for you, you understood. I mean, a lot of people, as young people, would have just said, well, I don't care, dad, but you took the time to understand where he came from and how he was affected, and also, how your mom was affected by things in her past. And so you've shown an incredible amount of grace, extended that to your family. So I think I understand no families can think like, don't be putting our, air in our laundry, but I think that you've done it with such with a good heart and a good intention to help other people, but also for for healing.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
And I think that's really important. And I think that's why people connect to you. That's why people want to work with you, because it's like, wow, like she's just, I've gone through something similar. That's why it's important to always, you know, be able to be authentic and be honest with people. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay. So tell the audience where they can connect to you, and also where can we get the book? All the books.
Definitely. So you can connect with me at our website at www.queensmindset.net, or you can send us an email at queensmindset.qm@gmail.com. You can go to our social media platforms on Instagram and Facebook and also YouTube, and all of them are at Queen's Mindset. And you can also purchase the book from Amazon. If you go to Amazon, you should find Journey to 30, The Naked Truth, I Am You right there. And also 7 Days of Intimacy, a guide to rediscovering you as well. Or if you go to our website, once you scroll down, you'll see that link where you just click the photograph of the book, and it takes you directly to Amazon page where you can purchase. You can purchase your copy right there. And if you are in Barbados and you're listening and you want to get a copy because you have not as yet, you can always reach out to us as well and send us a message or an email, or even send us a WhatsApp at 246-258-3544, and you can get your signed copy. Books are also in Clustered Bookstore. That's a bookstore in Barbados here. If you're in Barbados, this only applies to you. There are 3 different locations. So you can go to the Bridgetown location, you can go to the Dome Mall location, or you can go to Sharrington's Mall and you can purchase a copy right there.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So I love everything that you've had to say today. And I think that it is very great information, practical information that this audience can use, as we do have a community of dreamers, people looking to walk in purpose, people looking to build on those visions that they have. And I think that all the insights you provide today will help them to continue to do that. Mm-hmm. So we're going to move into 3 things with Kimisha. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. It's going to help our audience get to know you just a little bit better. And the first one is a 1A and 1B. How do you start and end the day?
I like that question. Okay, so I start the day by, as soon as I wake up, the first thing I try to do is, and I say try because sometimes the first attempt is to grab the phone, oh my goodness, let me just grab the phone. But and honestly, I do grab the phone, but no, just to turn the alarm off, So what if that's that for me is to go into pray. So I stay in bed for a few seconds. I just pray, thanking God for waking me up for that morning. Now, because I'm a vision person, I have everything already in my room. So as soon as I wake up, I open my eyes, I see all the pictures, I see all the affirmations in front of me, and I will read those affirmations. I will see those visions again, those that I've completed and those that are in progress right now. And that's something that helps to energize me. And then I go ahead, get ready everybody. And I end the day again with prayer as well, thanking God for, giving me that success in my day. And also looking to take off if I have my notes, because I would jot down like goals or, what I want to be able to accomplish for the day, and make sure that I'm able to sign off and say, okay, I've done this, I've done that, and this is what I'm planning to do for next time. So I'm always making it targeted so that I can always, be able to accomplish the things that I've set.
Mhm.
However, I do leave a lot of room for the unexpected, because we
Yes.
can plan as much as we want, but God, He gets to decide. So I still leave
Mhm.
room for, if something doesn't go according to my plan, that I can come back and I can say, okay, this is what I'll do next time. And I learned to give myself grace along the way, because because I'm so tight to a plan, so tight to everything that's written, I'm like, Kimisha, this is not reality. Give yourself grace along the way, so that
Yes.
even if you don't get something done today, there's always tomorrow to complete it. So that's how my day really goes.
Love that. So speaking of goals or intentions, what's one that you've set for yourself this year?
I love that question. One of the things that I set for myself this year was to be able to have my magazine to go viral. I mean, I say go viral to reach more persons, and I've been able to do that. So we've been able to reach over 10 million viewers. So that's amazing. So now you can see the magazine on cruise ships. You have magazine on airlines and hotels and institutions. It's actually in Harvard. It's all over the place now. And then recently we got to expand it even more, to another demographic. We were now in Australia, we're in all different parts of Europe and so on, giving us another reach of another 10. So technically we're over 20,000 now, not 20,000, sorry, 20 million now. And that's just been amazing. So I am very excited about that,
Mhm.
because I was kind of back and forth. Should I really do it? Because the magazine was supposed to be happening in March. But because of some delays and so on, I had to push it back to Mother's Day. And I wasn't quite sure how that was going to go, but I remember the goal. And, as I continue to press through, I know we are here to say that we have been able to accomplish that. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Awesome. All right. And last question. What's a book, podcast, show, or anything that's inspiring you right now?
Oh my goodness, I have so many ones. Like, so I'm trying to think of one that I can really, really pinpoint. And this one is not really like a podcast, but it's like more so of videos. I love to listen to Miles Morrow. He has so much wealth of knowledge. He's so wise, and it's so great that even though he has passed on, that his wisdom is still living out through the earth. So I spend a lot of time, I listen to his videos and different things that he will talk about. And I find that that's very encouraging and uplifting for me. There is a book called The Power of the Tongue. I love that, but it's a small, tiny little book, but it has so much inside of it, and I try to read that
Mhm.
over and over, because you can read that in like 2 hours or so. I try to read that all the time so that it keeps empowering me about the power of my tongue and how I'm speaking. And that's one thing that I really, really love to listen to. In terms of podcasts, I tend not to, I don't have like a favorite podcast per se. I
Mhm.
listen to various podcasts, throughout the way. But the main thing for me is really that book and listening to Miles Morrow's videos on YouTube. And that really keeps me going. That inspires me and helps me to really, keep getting clarity for where God is taking me, because there's so much
Mhm.
things that he shares that I can really, identify with. And if there's one person that I really love to listen to as well outside of him, is Lisa Nichols as well, another motivational speaker. I love her story of how she's been able to be such an impact to so many persons worldwide. So I am
Mhm.
always listening to her stuff. I've been a part of her different trainings and so on. I've just been enjoying it and just having a lot of fun in pulling those parts and those pieces that are for me and putting them in place. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. All right, so before I let you go, what are three things you'd like the audience to take away from our conversation today?
Definitely. So, three things I want you to take away. I want you to write the vision, and I want you to make it plain. And then I want you to build your level of desire, because by building your level of desire and your level of passion, it's going to help you to have a strong belief in what you have been called to do. And then I want you to build your faith. So those are the three things I want you to do. Build your faith. And the reason for building your faith is going to help you when resistance comes. Because remember, with a rubber band, if you stretch that rubber band, it never goes back into the same place. And the reason why that is so, because once when the rubber band isn't stretched, it can only wrap once. But when it stretches, it can wrap 2 or 3 times. And the reason why you have to be stretched is because you have to build capacity for what you've been called to. So your faith is building capacity. So in order for you to execute the vision, you first have to build that passion and that desire so that you have the level of belief that is called for what you are called to, and then have that faith. And when the resilience comes, the resistance comes, you're working along with it. Because remember, if you're in the gym and you're working out, you're going to find your muscles are going to get tense at some point, and that's because the resistance is being built. But at the end of it, when you finish that trail, you finish those 3 months or 6 months that you've been working out for, when you look at your body's tone as well, as you're down to size, you're all together, but it's the resistance that has to be built. So don't be afraid of building resistance. Don't be afraid when the resistance come, but go with the flow of the resistance, because that's what's building your faith, and that's what building your tenacity, so that you're able to complete the vision that you've been called to.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kimisha, for joining the show today. I've loved this conversation. I think that what you're doing is amazing, what you're giving to the world and how you're helping young women and helping all women is just great to see. So much success. I wish for you continued success in everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you for, even giving me the opportunity to speak here today. I speak blessings on your podcast and blessings on everything attached to you and assigned to you, that it will always be fruitful. So thank you once again.
Thank you. And I received that. Stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.